Saber and conocer are both verbs to know. So you can know different things, and there's two different verbs in Spanish. Now, last chapter we did ser and estar, and it wasn't as big as a, or this time it won't be as big as a distinction as it was last time. Ser and estar, you have lots of different reasons. Here you just have two different meanings. So, two different things that you're working with. Notice that for the conjugations of the verb, what's irregular about any of those for each of those? The yo form. So if you look at it, all you really need to remember is that the yo form is different and that you need to make sure that you have on the... Ooh, sorry. Of course. On the yo form of saber, you need to make sure you have a very, very clear accent. Because if you don't, it's a separate word, and we won't learn that word until we're going to use it with different verbs when we talk about reflexive verbs in Spanish too. Okay? But saber, if you look at your vocab sheet, you have the meanings of it. Excuse me. But you have the difference of saber right here is that saber is more to know information or to know about something. Okay, so I say informations or facts or how to do things. Now, how to do things would be actions, right? So most likely, if you see a verb after it, you're going to use the verb saber. I know how to dance. I know how to cook. I don't know how to cook. All you do is put a no in front of the verb. Okay. So, saber would be to know how to do things, and then you see the third example there, I know how to ski and play tennis, okay? And then to know information or facts in general is the verb saber. The verb conocer is more to be acquainted with or to know a person or a place, okay? So that's the easy difference in meaning of the two, and what we're going to do is go ahead and open up your notes from Edmodo. We're going to go through each of different sentences, similar to what we did with ser and estar. Sentences in English first, and then we'll go ahead and transfer over to Spanish in just a second. But that was page 348 in your textbook if you wanted to have that as a reference. This is in your notes on Edmodo. Okay. Again, at the top, you have... just one verb to know in English. In Spanish, you have two. So, saber is to know facts or information, or how to do something. And then conocer is to know a person or a place. And it gives you a couple of examples. To know information, to know a person, to know a place, to know an activity, to know how to do something. So I'm going to go through these and use those reasons, basically, for which verb would we use if we're translating this to Spanish. The first one, the sisters know the dance. What is it that they know?
The dance.
Okay. Oh, number one's an example there. They know the activity or they know how to do something, so it would definitely be the verb saber. Okay. What about I know his cousin? You know a person, so which verb would you use? Conocer. Good. Okay. For number 3, we know how to get to the town. Okay, so make sure that you look at the actual sentence. You know how to get there. Not you know the town, but you know how to get there, which would be the information, which would be saber. Okay. The guide knows the work of art. No. No, it's not that. You're not talking about knowing the guide. You're talking about somebody knowing a work of art. So they know information, which would be saber. And then you know the neighborhood?
Place.
Good. So you know a place, so that would definitely be the verb conocer. So in Spanish we've got saber and conocer. We're going to basically do the same thing here. What I just mentioned, if you want to add to your paper, if you see a blank and I ask you to put saber or conocer, then look what's after the blank. What is it that you know? If it's a verb, what would you use saber or conocer? you know how to do a verb, if you know how to dance, if you know how to ski, if you know how to, then it would be saber. So a hint for saber would be having a verb after the blank. Why would any of your question words be another hint for saber?
Because it's asking you how to do something.
Right. You know how, you know why, you know when, you know what. You know information about all those things. Okay, so any of your question words would be knowing that information. So saber again, to know facts, information, or how to do something, it's added on top. It's just not added over here if you want to add the how to, basically, which would be a second verb. What happens when we have two verbs in a row?
Conjugate the second one. First.
Always conjugate the first one. Always, always, always. Don't conjugate the second one if it's back to back in a row. And then conocer, to know a person or a place, or to be acquainted with. Same thing. You're going to see this a business. It's not the same as when we use the verb to go. The verb voy, vas, va, vamos, van, have to have an a afterwards because you're going to a place. The a, when you see after these right here, it's called a personal a. There's not an exact translation to a personal a in English because we don't use it. Just know that you'll see it commonly before people's names. And how do we know if it's a proper noun? Okay, so capital letters should definitely be your clues there for knowing somebody or a place. Okay, so that would be a clue for conocer. So, and then remember a and el together make al, so that would be the same thing. You know somebody personally that's masculine in this case. And then a couple of examples there. But again, proper nouns will always be capitalized, so that would be a clue for you. The first one example there, Ana sabe usar la computadora. Why is it using the verb saber? Because she knows how to use the computer. So she knows, again, verb, how to, activity, info. For number 2, ellos saben tocar la guitarra. Why is it using the verb saber?
Because
She knows how to
play the
How
guitar.
to, or activity. Good. For number 3, mi primo conoce a Britney Spears.
Person.
Okay. So person would be the reason why it's using the verb conocer, and that personal weird a there. And then 4, nosotros sabemos escribir. That should give you enough information. But what is it that you know how to do here?
Write Spanish.
Write what in Spanish?
The date in
The
Spanish.
date in Spanish. Good. So you know that information. So that's why it's using the verb saber. And last one, su hermana mayor, your older sister, conoce la discoteca, knows discoteca is like a place to dance, club, etc. So why would it be conocer in this
Person.
a place? Yes, in this reason. So you already know, or you should basically know the conjugations of the verb, because only the yo forms are irregular. We're going to add them to the second part of your notes here. And then you just have to know, obviously, the reason, the distinction between the two verbs, saber and conocer, which again are on page 348. Okay. So both verbs are to know, and you have to know when to use each one. Conocer, the only thing that's irregular about it is that it's conozco, and it's a weird ZCO there. Okay, so just know that it's irregular. You have to remember that that one's just different. But everything else, if you were to take away the ER and add ER endings, then you have the rest of your conjugations for your verb, conocer, to know a person or a place. Okay. So if you're familiar with someone, you're going to see that weird personal A, business there. If you meet someone for the first time, you use conocer. So again, you're meeting a person, or if you're familiar with places or things, you'll always use the verb conocer. So far, so good? Okay. Saber. Please, please, please write a giant note to yourself that sabo is not a word in Spanish. Do not make up words. If you take the verb saber and you just take away the ER and you add an O for the yo form, it won't work because it's an irregular yo form. The yo form of saber is se, S-E with a very, very clear accent. And I've noticed on some of our quiz or our tests that we just took over ser and estar, some of those accents over estar weren't very clear. Some people were still putting the accent leaning to the left instead of the right. Some people weren't putting it on top of the letter. Here's your final warning about accents. If it's not where it should be, it doesn't exist. Okay? You can't make it look like an apostrophe next to the letter. It has to be clearly over the letter, slanted to the right. So you just start with a little dot on top of the letter, go right. Okay? But use saber to know facts or information. You also use it to know how to do something, which would most likely be a verb. And whenever we have two verbs in a row, you still don't conjugate that second verb. If you see a que afterwards, you're se que, it's you know that, and it's most likely I know that, blah, 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 will most likely be information. In this case, I know that it is hot outside. And any of your question words, you know, que without an accent means that, que with an accent means what. So two different words there, and just the accent makes a giant, giant difference. Does anybody remember what C is without an accent?
Yes.
It's yes is with an accent. Without an accent is if. So you know if something about somebody. So don't confuse it with the one with the accent, which is yes. The one without is C. You know if, and then again would be information, and again any of your question words there. So just to sum it up or to make it real easy to remember, saber is more to know information, facts, and how to do something, which would be a verb. And then conocer would be to know people or places. Two easy ways to remember there. Anyone still need this? Okay. What you're going to do for homework is the next page. I'll show you what you're going to do. You're going to first figure out, just like we did with the ser and estar, you have to figure out if it's saber or conocer this time. So you're going to give me an S or a C. So for that first one there, I know that you go to LHS.
S.
It would be S for saber. And then I want you to actually translate that sentence. What is I?
Yo.
Yo. What is I know?
Se.
That is saber. Se with an accent. You don't necessarily need the that here, but you can put it there. Yo sé que. If you want to put it there. And then the two informal, remember, informal or familiar are the same exact words. So if you see either word, you're familiar with somebody, so you can be informal with them, is a to form. Tu vas. You go to. Remember, the verb to go always has to be followed by an A. So if you were to have a verb after that, that A would be counted as part of the verb to go. And then LHS you leave the same because it's the name of a place. You don't change the name of places. Not only are you doing this page, you're also doing, which I put as a separate document on your Edmodo, you're doing page 137. That's a workbook page, so that's just at the bottom of your paper to remind you. And we are going to translate those tomorrow to help you. So make sure that you do these, S or C for saber or conocer, and then you work